Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Dogman Nation. I'm your host White Feather. On tonight's episode we have a very special guest. YouTube horror narrator, Dark Waters. Dark, welcome to the show.
Oh man, I'm excited to be here with you guys at Dogman Nation. I hope you can hear me pretty clearly. I'm excited to be with you guys. I'm excited to help you guys get started, so thank you for allowing me to be on your show. And I'm just excited. I'm always excited to do interviews. I love it.
Dark, can you give us a brief bio of yourself?
Well, for those of you who don't know, I go by Dark Waters. I am a YouTube horror storyteller and narrator. And where I've made my mark is by creating very high quality audio content that is directly reflective of people's real life experiences. So essentially what I do is I take a person's real life experience, I speak to them multiple times and gather as much information as I can about that person, about the environment, about what happened. Then I turn around and I recreate it in an audio format that the public seems to really like. I've been pretty good. Pretty successful at it so far. Coast to Coast AM, Darkness Radio, probably about 25 to 30 actual interviews, where it's like offline away from YouTube, where I've worked on the channel to the point to where people really find it very interesting and fascinating. So I'm excited. I'm excited about working with you guys, having an opportunity to help you grow and getting started,
So Dark, what is it about Dogman that interests you the most?
Well, to be honest with you, the Dogman topic doesn't interest me. I guess it does a little at this point in time. I've traveled down the road of the topic of Dogman and extensively all the way up to having my own encounter out of ignorance. Like I tell people all the time, I did not, at that point in time, I was like 50-50 believing if it was possible for this creature to exist until I got out there myself and had my encounter. Then from there, it sent me on this quest to trying to figure out what it really was. And then once I figured out what it was, there really was not much more interest for me in the topic. It's really rather simple once you get down to the nuts and bolts of, what it is. So does the topic interest me? Yeah. What interests me about it in the past has been, just where would something like this come from? And what I find is very, very interesting and what's something that I just don't understand. If you do your research, there are plenty of people who explain to you where these cryptids come from. Steve Quayle, Steve Quayle is a world-renowned author, another Coast to Coast AM alumni. Steve Quayle talks about Bigfoot and other cryptids all the time. And he talks about them and where they came from and the history of our planet and of our world. He talks about it from a spiritual perspective, a Christian spiritual perspective. And just to quote him, it goes back to Genesis 6 and it goes back to the beginning of time where they talk about the sons of God corrupting the DNA or corrupting God's creations. And that he alludes to. Now, he doesn't allude, he actually tells you that it's the fallen angels who fell to this planet that corrupted everything that God created. And when I look at it and I go back and I study and read the book of Enoch, the book of Giants, things of that nature, then all this stuff is there. It's there for you to read and find for yourself, I just think that certain people sensationalize the topic to the point to where, because they want to monetize it. So they sensationalize it to a point to where it's very little truth found in it because they need to monetize it and keep it going, moving forward and forward and forward and forward, encounter after encounter after encounter. When you get down to the basics, building blocks of what it is, the information is out there. And, it's my hope that people get to the truth, not that they just be entertained, but I want there to be some truth behind the entertainment.
That is an interesting point you made. Well, our legends teach of the same thing. The creation of something part man and part dog. What do you think about the types of dogmen?
When we start talking about the types of dogmen, I don't think it really matters so much the type of dogman. Think about it. If you're out in the middle of the woods and you're hunting, right? And a big 7-foot tall, 10-foot tall walking wolf whether it looks like a dog, whether it looks like a wolf, no matter what it looks like, if it comes up to you and it comes out after the woods, comes out of the woods after you, do you really care what type it is? I don't, I think the classifications of these creatures, again, is a part of the heavy monetization, because you have to, if you're going to monetize this topic, then you need to classify it. So anyone running around classifying them, for the most part, is moving towards monetizing it. Type 1, type 2, type 3, type 7, type 20. It's just a ploy to monetize the topic. And, either it's a ploy to monetize it or it's a disinformation ploy, one of the two. I'm not sure, but I don't really care about the types, to be completely and totally honest with you. What I care about is people understanding that, hey, if you're in this woods and you run into these creatures, here are the rules of engagement. I've said this 1,000 times. Number one, if you encounter something like this, back away from it. Number two, under no circumstances are you to attack or shoot it. And number three, if you are in a situation where it's so aggressive and you feel that you need to attack and shoot this thing, then be prepared for the repercussions that come with it. Be prepared to defend yourself for an extended period of time, because these things are tough cookies. So, and that's what I've consistently said over and over and over and over and over again. So I think that anybody who encounters these creatures should go the opposite way. You should. And if you think you're in an area where they are, then leave the area. And it's no different than when you deal with Sasquatch. There are clear markers and clear signs where Sasquatch is in the area. If you know they're in the area, why go in the area? What's the point of engaging something like that? What's the point of putting yourself in that danger? There is no point. So it's one of those things to where, in my opinion, if you find yourself in the area, regardless of the type there is, don't go looking for trouble, because most of the time when people find what they're looking for, they just are not prepared to deal with it. They really are not prepared to deal with it. And that's where the danger comes. And you underestimate, and essentially what I did, you don't take the topic as serious as it needs to be taken. You're curious about it. You want to know about it. But then when you find yourself in a situation that you can't handle, you're just not prepared for it. So I that's my take on it. Leave the things alone.
I hear you have been having some troubles with a few people in the industry. Let us start off by saying we owe a huge thanks to Vic, because his actions are really what moved us up in line. Thanks Vic Fundiff, we appreciate you being so dishonest. Dark. For the record, from the time we first contacted you about doing this Dogman channel, you have helped us plan this out and taken time out to answer our questions. We appreciate you. We just want you to know we will take it from here. So how many other people are you partnering with?
Well, from a strategic partnership standpoint, yeah, there have been a lot of people who want to work with me. And my thing is, and my take on it always has been, I learned from a mentor a long, long time ago, there's this one golden question. And, people may take it the wrong way when it talks about working together in strategic partnerships. The question that people have to answer is, what's in it for me? And that's how I feel about it. What's in it for me to take time out of what I'm doing to help you grow? And for example, you guys bring so much to the table when it comes to truth and things that are not known, that I think it solves a problem and it fills a void. It's not necessarily something in it for me, but there's something beneficial because it fills a gap and it fills a void. And it fills a gap and a void for quality content on this subject that's not necessarily based on eyewitness encounters. Because when you start talking about eyewitness encounters, then you have to be very, very careful, because people will exaggerate their encounters. People will not tell the truth. There are people out there who are attention seekers. There are people out there who deliberately want to associate themselves with various names because they feel like it puts them on that level and they have their agenda. So, in the case of you guys, when I had the opportunity, when we started speaking about this, and I had the opportunity, when we started speaking about doing this, and we started to discuss how we would go about doing it, what would be the best way for you, the best approach for you guys to take, I just thought it was awesome. And then I figured, hey, with all the controversy, what better time than now to go ahead and get the ball rolling? You seize every opportunity, and I think you guys are going to bring so much more to the table than people will ever expect and ever understand. Because when you start talking about topics of Sasquatch and Dogman and other cryptids, the First Nations peoples have been around for so long, it's a part of your history. It's a part of your oral traditions. It's passed down. And, a lot of people speculate on what these things are and where they come from. But, I mean, you guys have a direct line to what it is and what it isn't.
Dark. We understand that you have some stories that were lost, and now you are going to be putting them out to the public. Can you tell us the backstory behind the Lost Files? Also, can you share a Dogman story from the Lost Files?
Well, yeah, I could talk to you a little bit about the Lost Files. So, one of the things that's happened over the past 45 days is that, and this has happened to other people, is one of my computers was hacked. I mean, whoever this hacker was, this guy's good. I mean, this guy's really good because he went in, he hacked the computer, turned off all the stuff on it, put worms on all the files and all the rest of the stuff. So I had a friend of mine that works for the NSA come in, take the computer, reconnect it, and start hammering away at it. And he started recovering files and cleaning those files. And then he went on about his business to take care of the hacker himself. And hopefully that person will be taken care of and prosecuted. But a lot of the lost files that I'm getting ready to start putting out, I put out one on Facebook. These are stories that had been sitting there that were prepared, particularly for the Halloween time frame, because I wanted to do like a Halloween rollout where I just started dropping content upon content upon content upon content upon content. And so those lost files are stories that people have told me over the past 8 to 9 months that I had already prepared, and I try to keep a whole slew of content on hand. I just don't release a lot of content. I mean, even now I have a significant amount of stories either recorded on this particular computer or in my head. But I don't believe in just releasing content. There's a time for everything. There's a time to do everything. There's a certain way you move, in my opinion. And so the lost files are stories that have that were sitting on my computer that I thought were lost. And so I started recording started recording more and more and more, and then now I started receiving these older files back. So now I'm I have almost double what I had prior to that because I started recording more and I got some of that old stuff back. So those are the lost files. Just to tell you a Dogman story from the lost files, there was one that I did have permission to share that I did not share, and I'll share this one with you. And this one happened not too far from here, down in Houma, which is where, if you guys recall, one of the last Dogman stories that I told was when a gentleman was on a boat and he had his dog Buck, and they saw the same animal, not the same animal, but they saw a Dogman, in the bushes as they were trolling along fishing. Down in the same area, people are very, very familiar with seeing these creatures. They call them the Rougarou. And the difference is, and this is another point, sidebar note, that I have a very hard time understanding. People are very, very, and maybe it's just Louisiana people, but people are they don't readily talk about these encounters. It takes you to infiltrate a community. And when I mean infiltrate, I mean purposely infiltrate a community, spend time with people, build relationships with people in order for them to share these stories. It's not something where every week someone's calling me with a Dogman story. It's something I had to, at this point in time, I had to proactively go out and search and talk to people about. So when you have shows that are dropping Dogman encounters and Dogman stories weekly and bi-weekly, and I just don't see where that content is coming from. I mean, I can honestly tell you, I do not understand where that content is coming from, because 90% of the people I've spoken to about these encounters do not want their encounter repeated. And then you have another 10% who don't mind me telling their story, but they don't want their name used or anything like that. Then there's like 1% of the people who would ever, under any circumstances, want their voice recorded and to share a story. So I just don't understand where all the content is coming from. It makes me think, and it leads me to believe that a lot of this stuff is completely and totally embellished. But that's not my decision to make. I mean, that's for the fans to decide if they're going to sit there and listen with an objective ear, or if they're going to listen with a fanatical ear. And that's just the honest to God truth. It's just not many people who are willing to share these stories. especially in my area. Maybe in other areas they are. Maybe in other areas they figure, hey, we just, I don't know. But I think with your help, we'll start to inject some standard levels of standards into these topics, and some of the things that are going on with them. So, hey, back to the story. Same area, where the gentleman had his encounter with his dog Charlie. I mean, it was dog Buck. Literally about a quarter of a mile down, there's houses on the bayou. And when I say houses on the bayou, I mean, if you can imagine when you walk out of your front door on your front porch and you look down, there's water there, right? The way you travel around is you travel via boat. It's not like, there's a whole bunch of roadways that are readily available for you to get from point A to point B. We're talking about on the bayous. We're talking about southeast Louisiana on the water. Well, one of the stories that came to me that I thought was very fascinating, but also it wasn't extremely frightening, because a lot of these encounters aren't just frightening. A gentleman and his wife had been living on the bayous for a very, very long time. We're talking about 30, 40 years. And literally monthly, this creature would, I guess it was on its route, I don't know what it was doing, but this creature would pass by their property monthly, swimming in the bayou. And it would swim from one side of the bayou to the other, where there was this embankment where it can kind of walk on the land. And so they would sit on their porch, and they would literally see this thing get in the water, swim across. And they said it swam like a man would swim. It didn't swim like a dog paddling. It swam like a man would swim. One arm out of the water, another arm out of the water. And it would swim over, cross over, stand up, climb out of the water, and take off running. And so this happened monthly for them. And it was around the end of the month. It would happen monthly. I mean, every month they would see this creature. Now, the creature would sometimes even look over at them and see them on the porch, would not bother them, did not care that they saw them. It saw them as no threat whatsoever, right? Well, everything was all good until this one particular time. They had friends over, and the friends were hanging out on the porch with them, and they were all drinking beers and hanging out, doing all kind of crazy stuff, stuff that people on the bayou do. One particular friend was fishing off the porch, and he actually saw the creature, saw it swimming in the bayou, and started to freak out, like, man, what the hell is this thing swimming in the water? He runs to go get a shotgun. As he runs in the house, grabs a shotgun, turns around, comes out, starts shooting at it. Now, the entire time, when I tell you the entire time, these people have been sharing the story, and they say, man, this thing did not bother us. We knew it was something. We knew it was a rougarou. We had no problems with it. It would look over and go on about its business. And when this man shot at it, it turned and started swimming towards their house. And it didn't run away from him. It turned and started swimming towards his house. And so he shot again. Now, he's not hitting it because he's an idiot. He's shooting at it with a shotgun. This thing is yards, over 50, 60 yards away. He ain't hitting it with a shotgun. I don't even know why he did this, but the thing starts turning and swims towards the house. It swims all the way up to the embankment on the opposite side of the house, to where it climbs out of the water and shows itself to them. Then it starts growling and roaring at the house. Now, the family members who had lived in the house prior to this, they know what it is. They had no problems with it. They never screw with it. Now, they start arguing with the person who came over to spend the night, and literally a fist fight breaks out over this man shooting at this creature. The whole time these two men are fighting on the porch, the creature is standing there watching. I don't know if it was smart enough to decipher what was going on, or if it was confused, but it stood there and watched this altercation. The wife who lived in the house with the husband, who I don't have the person to use their name, so I cannot call her by her name, she's watching this thing watch the fight. As the husband takes the weapon away from the man and starts screaming and fussing at him and pointing in the creature's direction, the creature turns around and goes on about his business, almost as if it knew that, hey, we have some type of relationship where I don't bother you guys, you don't bother me. You violated that relationship, or someone at your house violated that relationship, and I'm getting ready to come deal with you guys. But wait, hold on, let me see what's going on. Okay, you guys are dealing with this. And it went on about his business, swam the other way, crossed over the bayou, went on about his business like it always does. And that was one of the stories that that's a part of the lost files that I never shared. And it goes to the intelligence of these creatures. Now, Why does it go to the intelligence of the creature? Number one, well, actually goes to the nature of these creatures. That's the better word to use to explain it. It goes to the nature of these creatures because number one, we all consistently know that these creatures are fearless. Every encounter that I've talked to, especially the ones with people who I haven't had the opportunity to share, people who've had run-ins with these creatures, I mean, face to face in the woods, on the roads. I mean, these creatures are fearless. And once you get their attention, they come and let you know, hey, you got my attention. Now, what do you want to do? Well, in this case, it's the same thing. You took a shot at it. Boom. It's like, oh, you done lost your mind. Let me come see what this is about. It comes over. Then it goes to the creature's intelligence because it positions itself where it can clearly see where everybody is and let itself be seen. Because, again, I've said over and over and over, these creatures have this terroristic nature where they terrorize people. And then it waits before it makes a decision as to what it's going to do. And it sees this altercation, sees that it's handled by the people, I guess, that it's familiar with. And I guess it makes a decision that, hey, I don't want anything to do with this. This is taken care of. There's nothing to worry about. And I just thought that was one of the most interesting stories. I actually have that story already done. So as a gift to you guys, before you put this out, and you can take one of my stories and put it up on the end of your channel so you can actually hear this encounter. It is one of the lost files, so I'll give that to you guys because I think that's going to be very, very interesting. I think it's going to be good for your growth as a channel. I mean, I think you guys are starting to grow now, 50-something subscribers. It's my hope to help you guys get to 10,000 something subscribers very, very quickly at that. But yeah, that's one of the stories, man. I think it's a crazy story. But I spoke to these people. I actually went down to the area and sat down with them for lunch. And had that conversation with him, man. It was crazy. Yeah, it really was crazy that that happened.
That is crazy, it really is. I bet they won't be having too many more house parties. One of the most entertaining things about you Dark Waters is your personality. You really are a down-to-earth kind of guy. We were surprised that Vic Fun Diff accused you of threatening him. Also, your response on Facebook has really been hilarious. Talk to us a little about what happened and how that all went down.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things to where that altercation was something that was happening between him and Lon Strickler. Now, Lon is a strategic partner of mine, and when I mean strategic, people try and take that and say it's business, but I talked to Lon. Lon's a great guy. I talked to Lon enough to know that Lon was getting ready to go into the hospital, right? And so when I saw that happening, of course, I have an opposition research team. I told people this plenty of times, which means they research and they find things that are going on that are associated with my name. And so when I found out about that happening to Lon, I actually spoke to Lon. I said, Lon, you're going to have to address this, but you need to address it on your show. And but Lon was sick, and Lon was going to the hospital. Lon, he's got other things he needs to deal with. And so when I saw that that it was going to spin out of control, because I know how the audience of Dogman Encounters is, the actual channel. That audience has not the entire audience, because it's like a 10,000 member audience, but the Facebook contingent of that audience, I've seen them attack people before. And I witnessed them attack witnesses before, right? People who were on the show, I witnessed them attack witnesses on the show. So I know how these people are and how they behave, because I used to be a part of the secret group of people who were there, right? And I witnessed the behavior in that secret group, and I witnessed how the host actually treated that controversy. So the host would allow the controversy to run wild, right? He would literally let the controversy run wild. He wouldn't interject. He wouldn't stop it. He wouldn't do anything. So when I saw that Lon decided to post his reply on Facebook, I immediately reached out to the host of the show, because I knew what was coming next, right? So my message was simply, hey, bro, this stuff with you and Lon is pretty much getting out of control. It's going to quickly put us at odds, because up until this point, I had been referring guests to him and Brenton Sawin, on this particular topic, because I wasn't touching the topic. So I would say, hey, that's something for such and such. That's something for Brenton. I had been I had been funneling people. Now, whether they went over there and contacted them or not, I don't know. But I had been referring people that way because I wasn't touching this particular topic. So when I reach out and say, hey, we need to talk, basically, you need to give me a call because this is basically saying this is getting out of hand. And that's all it was. And then it was turned around and posted as if it was a threat. No, it wasn't posted as if it was a threat. It was posted out of context and then labeled as I was being threatening, which, to me was just a sucker move. It's kind of like I shoot you a message because I know some bad stuff is going to pop off or go down. And then, you take it and you take that private message and turn around and say it's a threat. But if you go back and people were to go back and read the messages before that, those messages before that were, hey, I know that I'm under surveillance. Man, I think you might be under surveillance too. So clearly there was a working relationship where I was informing this gentleman about, hey, this is heads up, this is coming. So this was consistent with what I had done prior to this. It was very consistent with what I'd done. And I mean, even if I was to go back and expose the emails where I sent out messages to the entire Dogman community, every host of a Dogman show, talking about some of the trolls and some of the behavior of some of the trolls and letting them know, hey, this guy's acting this way. Be careful who you're dealing with. So I've been very consistent in my action. So for that host to take that information, post it, turn around, and then say I was threatening them, it's like, wow, okay, dude. Like, so now you're trying to exploit a situation. Now you're trying to flame a situation. And so at first I was like, well, we'll see how it plays out. I'm not gonna really trip on it. Like you lost your mind. I don't even know why you would do something like that. Then it turned into, the comments getting out of control on his channel, which that's indicative of somebody flaming. They allow people to, you start this troll war where you get these people saying stuff, get them all emotional, and then you sit back and you let it happen. Well, on my end, I never taken advantage of the Dark Waters family like that. Anytime I've ever had a conflict with anybody, which has only been one time for the record, and that was King Spook. Even then, I was stopping people from talking trash about Spook. Even then, people were saying, oh, I'm going to unsubscribe to Spook. And I was like, nah, don't do that. That dude needs his money. So, it's just such a dishonorable thing to do on his part. It really, really was dishonorable, and it was just an underhanded thing to do. So then I decided to just start defending myself. Every time I've ever defended myself, I defend myself with the facts. Now, the fact of the matter is that sometimes people do not want to see the facts for what they are. They don't. They don't want to see the truth for what it is. So I put out the message, the full message, in context. That wasn't good enough. So, and he allowed this troll army to keep flaming. So after that, I just had to go ahead and have my opposition research team start feeding me. And so then we started posting. So, anything you want to know, all of it's out there on Facebook at the Dark H2O channel on Facebook. As far as I'm concerned, I do want to address one thing, and I think it needs to be known because one of the things that was said was that he was disappointed in me as a friend. I don't know how people define friends these days, but I've only spoken to that gentleman once. That was the one time he hounded me about doing my interview on his channel. After that, I was not able to reach out and speak to him verbally on the phone ever again. I've emailed him and he's emailed me back, but even as far as me reaching out to him, as far as doing stuff like TV shows, things that I've been contacted about, he doesn't reply. So there's no way I can call the gentleman to talk to him. So, to be a friend, I need to communicate with you, not on your terms, where it's like, oh, you contact me when you want to. Friends communicate with each other freely. That means friends have a way of communicating. So, for example, I consider you guys friends because I have a way of calling you. You have a way of calling me. I consider the Dark Waters subscribers a family because they have, and I can stand by that because they have a way of contacting me and getting in touch with me. Anything outside of that, it's the basics of friendship, right? The basic of friendship is we need to be able to communicate, not when you want to, but at will. So I really, I never have considered a person to be a friend. I consider them to be an acquaintance because there was no way for me to even get friendly with them, So for that person to turn around and say, hey, I don't want to be his friend anymore. It's kind of like some schoolyard girl type stuff, dude, like there was no way for me to communicate with him. So And that's not like it's, people in the industry know that. And that's the difference. Fans don't know what people in the industry know. And fans shouldn't know the things that people in the industry know all the time, because the people who are fans can be fanatical. Well, the difference is, when you take time and you do a deliberate move against me when I've done you nothing whatsoever, then at that point in time, then the fans do need to know the things that the industry knows. And there are reasons why that gentleman has not been on any major radio show like a Darkness Radio or a Coast to Coast. There are plenty of reasons, and then when people start talking trash about Dark Waters, you have to remember, I have been vetted by Darkness Radio, by Coast to Coast, which means I have to give them a complete and total bio of myself, my background, my history, what I do for a living, what I've done for a living, my credentials. And so I've been completely vetted, and that's not just by those. I mean, Coast to Coast is the top, paranormal show in the world. So, I mean, being vetted by them makes it a lot easier for other people to accept me. But I offer that same information to anybody who has a show that wants to vet me to have to do on their show. So I just think it's interesting. In some cases, some people want to associate themselves with you to try and put themselves on your level. And that's just not how it works. It may work that way for your particular fan base in their minds that, someone is better, or they may justify that, oh, that person's just as good or better. But whatever you justify in your mind doesn't mean it's reality. And that's just the honest to God truth. And what disappoints me the most about that gentleman is, just like everybody else, I've always reached out to people and tried to give them my advice on what I think they should be doing to help their brand grow and then be successful. And I did the same thing with him that I've done with everybody else. And that won't happen again. So,
what, Dark, that is really horrible. We reached out to him to share some of our stories, and he would not give us a number to call him either. Something about he was afraid that werewolves would track him down and find him. That is why we decided to do our own show. He can go hide in his mother's basement with silver bullets and eat all the Hot Pockets he wants. We appreciate you supporting us and are in debt to you. Well, Dark, it was great having you on the show. We hope to have you back soon.
Well, no, I appreciate the time on your show. I look forward to working with you guys. I will be promoting you heavily along with the other channels that are involved, like the Vault of Nightmares, and Mr. X Dreams, and a couple other people that I'm working with. You guys have a very popular topic, and I think you guys are going to be wildly successful. So I just want to say thank you. I'm very excited to work with you, and I think that it's going to be epic when we're done with it. I think it's going to be epic. So I think you guys will quickly surpass a lot of the other YouTubers out here. People readily accept a voice similar to yours on a weekly basis. I don't see why they won't accept this one. So, all right, guys. Thank you for the time on your show, and bye-bye.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you have had a Dogman encounter and want to share, you can email us at dogmannationx@gmail.com. On our next episodes, we will be evaluating some of the most popular Dogman encounters on the internet. You don't want to miss this. Good night.